Hello and welcome to Ask Cuyahoga. This is your opportunity to get your questions answered about scams. I'm Dawn Calavini with the Communications Department, and joining me is our Director of Consumer Affairs here in Cuyahoga County, Cheryl Harris. Hi.
Hi, Dawn. Thanks for letting us have an opportunity to talk about scams.
Well, it's a perfect time to do it, celebrating National Consumer Protection Week, and I know that you live and breathe trying to protect Cuyahoga County residents from scams. If you have a question, please submit it as a comment. We are live right now on YouTube, also all of our social media platforms. You can also email your question at any time during our conversation, or even afterward. If you think of something, we'll get back to you. Communications@cuyahogacounty.us. So, Cheryl, let's start with the basics. Tell us about Scam Squad.
So, Scam Squad is a task force, and it's made up of local, state, and federal, not only government agencies. We have everyone from us to the FBI and Federal Trade Commission who have offices in Cleveland. But also, we have some nonprofits that work with the public and particularly older populations. So we have this very robust group, and working together, we're trying to exchange information. We want to make it easier for people to report scams. We want to make sure that when an agency gets a scam, we're sharing that with the agency that's best suited to investigate. And finally, we really want to look at those scam reports so that when we put out an alert, we are alerting people to the most current scam threats out there, because we want the public to be ready to pick up the phone and know what they're dealing with and hang up if they need to.
Right. So I know that these things are seasonal even sometimes, but tell us, what are the scams that you hear about the most?
Well, the ones that we hear about most are really the ones that are most common. They're imposter government scams, which is a whole range of scams where someone pretends to be a government agency, often the sheriff's department, but really very often FBI agents, or they'll use any agency name. We hear about imposter business scams where someone's pretending to be your, like a company that you would know, and then they start a scam that way. We hear about romance scams, less often, but the dollar losses for those are pretty huge, and lottery and sweepstakes scams. So those I would say are the biggies right now.
And, let's talk about one of them, for example. As we're waiting for questions to come in, if you have a question about a scam, something you've heard about, something maybe even you've experienced, somebody that a loved one has experienced, you can submit it as a comment. We would love to address that today. We're live right now with Cuyahoga County's Director of Consumer Affairs, Cheryl Harris. And you can also email your question at communications@cuyahogacounty.us. So a jury duty scam is one that usually starts, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're at work, you get a call saying that you were supposed to show up for jury duty today. You didn't, and so you're in big trouble and you're going to be arrested.
Right. And usually it's someone pretending to be a sheriff's deputy when that happens. So it's a call, you are in trouble. And often people get really worked up about it because they feel like they meant to, they wanted to comply if they didn't get a jury duty notice. But the scammer is telling them, your money is going to be, you're going to be fined huge amounts. You're in such trouble with the judge. And then they say, you better go down to the Justice Center and see this judge. So people have to leave where they are. They start to drive. The scammer says, don't hang up or we'll immediately arrest you. So they've got them on their cell phone. And then on the way, they'll say, oh, that judge was busy. He had got called into a trial. So tell me where you are. And then they direct them to go someplace to buy like a gift card or to convert money into Bitcoin. So they're really sneaky scams. And if I can just say this, so younger people sometimes have more difficulty understanding these are scams than older folks do. And what they want to do is Google their way out of it. So they'll Google the number that's calling them, and lo and behold, it's the sheriff's number, because scammers can spoof numbers that show up on your caller ID.
Right.
And then they Google the name of the deputy who's calling them, and that's also a real deputy. So they feel like they've verified what they're hearing on the phone. But in fact, all they did was what the scammers did originally, figure out what the sheriff's department number is, figure out the name of a deputy, and then start the scam. So we just want you to know, if you ever get one of these calls, first of all, hang up the phone. No law enforcement agency ever will call you about missing jury duty. You'll get letters, lots of letters. That's kind of the way government communicates with people most often. So if someone's calling you and telling you you're immediately in trouble, you're going to be arrested, your funds are going to be seized, that is always a scam. Because if real law enforcement officers called bad guys and said, "Hey, we're coming over to arrest you," the bad guys would go away, right? So that is always a scam. You can always guarantee that that's a scam.
That call to say, "We're going to arrest you unless
Mhm.
you do this." There's a threat involved,
Right.
and also, just, asking you for something in return.
And immediately demanding money that's like you immediately have to pay. That is a hallmark across most kind of scams. And then also just telling you that you have to keep this a secret. You cannot contact another person. And lately, what some of the scammers are saying is, if you tell your spouse or you tell a friend, you'll be implicating them in this crime and they'll become an accessory and they'll be in trouble too. That's never the case. And I do want to say, our sheriff's department is really great. If you can always call Scam Squad, right? 216-443 7226. But if it's after hours or on the weekend, you're getting a call like that, our sheriff's department is so great. They will help you right away, even your local police department. Police know these scams and they're happy to tell you it's not real.
So from Mike in Shaker Heights, he writes in to say that the scams seem obvious to me, and I think they do to us too as we're talking. So he asks, what makes people fall for scams, and how can I help others not, fall prey to scammers as
Well,
well?
I think that's a fantastic question. And that's because when we're listening about it, we're in a different frame of mind than people are when they're actually getting that call, right? So
And the scammers are skilled
the
at
scammers are
this.
very skilled. These are organizations. They have scripts. They've made many of these calls to many folks, so they know how to counter anything that people say. So there's something that happens to us when we get information that panics us. Sometimes we can't actually access the more rational part of our brain, and we start panicking, and and then it's harder for us to understand that there are certain things that are happening that could never happen in reality. And we have so many people after they've paid, they'll call us and say, "I was scammed and I can't believe it. I cannot believe this because this happened and that can't be real and this happened." Like they can recognize it after the fact. Some things that make folks more vulnerable to scams in a particular minute are, let's just say you're dealing with a lot in your life, you're really stressed, you're it maybe you're worried about a health condition that you have or a family member has. Maybe it's the anniversary of a death of somebody who was close to you, or you're just feeling overwhelmed by everything that's going on in your life. Scammers are really skilled at giving us things that make us feel like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose money, I'm going to be arrested," all of these things, and we start imagining. We fill in the blanks on our own in our heads, right? So we're busy swirling around in that story, and sometimes just knowing that you're particularly vulnerable at a certain time, that you're off your game. We've had people tell us, "I got this same call last year and I hung up, and I got it this year and I didn't." And it was because their circumstances changed.
Mhm.
So it's not true that only lonely people get scammed. I think that's one of the myths that's out there. Um, uh, People are just busy or overwhelmed a lot of times at the time, and that tends to bring their vulnerability down. But once they're panicking, that's like, it's hard to get them out of that moment.
Just take that step back.
take a step back, hang up, think about how can I verify in a completely independent way what this person is telling me. And sometimes people will want to call a number. A scammer will say, you can call the sheriff's department at this number. This is my direct line. If you try to call the main number, you'll never get through. So they'll try to call the number that the scammer gives them to verify, but you're just talking to another scammer. So you have to think of a completely separate operation. So that's 216-443-7226. You can call your local police department, talk to a friend or neighbor, just take a breath, because once you get the scammer out of your ear, it's a lot easier for you to go back and spot those red flags. But if you want to help people, to get back to the question,
to Mike's question, yeah.
If you want to help people, I think the easiest way to do that is you can sign up for Scam Squad alerts, which is through our Ready Notify system. Every month we'll send out new information about scams. And if you sign up for those, you do it through readynotify.us, or you can call our department. You can get scam alerts, and if you can share those with folks, talk about scams, and we have information about scams on our website, which is cuyahogacounty.gov/scam squad. We have tip sheets and scam information. I think the more people talk about scams, the better it is for everyone.
If you have a question, just submit a comment. We're live right now on YouTube and our social media platforms. You can also email your question to communications@cuyahogacounty.us. Speaking with our Director of Consumer Affairs, Cheryl Harris. And just quickly to wrap up what Mike was asking about too, there was an article recently with a journalist who was on a beat where she was writing consistently about consumer affairs issues. And yet she got caught up in one of these calls where she felt that her identity had been stolen and that she was going to be part of some big federal investigation. And so thankfully, she was brave enough to say, I should know better, but this happened to me, and described it all. Were you shocked when you read that? I think that's somebody that you read fairly regularly, right?
No, I wasn't aware of her work before, but I do think I think it's great that she was willing to talk about her scam experience. And again, she's like a young mother. They're doing a lot with their lives. She's kind of busy in her life. She gets this call at a moment she's overwhelmed. And they said, she even told her husband, I'm having an identity theft problem, because they said, your social security number has been used in all these crimes. You are going to be, we've got you pegged as an accomplice. We're going to seize your funds. But I just want people to know there's no way really that anyone can seize your funds because you're the victim of a crime. That doesn't really happen. But to her, it seemed real. She wanted to tell her husband. They said, no, he will become an accomplice if you tell him. So she walked past him with money she had taken out of the bank, and she gave it to a courier who drove away with it, who she thought was some sort of federal agent, but it's just a courier.
So again, it's something where, don't see yourself as a victim. Don't feel embarrassed. This happens to people who are well-informed, and it can happen to anyone.
That's exactly right.
We have a question from Ellen in Parma, who said that she recently received a text message. She says, the text message said, I'm not registered to vote, but I know that I am registered to vote. So how do I know if this text is real or fake, and just wondering what she should do, what her next step should be. Definitely not click anything in the text, right?
Yeah, we say in general, do not click on text that you aren't expecting, because sometimes those links can be infected with malware, and that creates another whole set of problems for you. But I think if you have any questions about your voter registration, if that's what she's asking, you can go to the Cuyahoga County Elections Board. You can look online and see if you're in fact registered to vote. You can go downtown to the Board of Elections office. I mean, there are multiple ways by going to the source of that information. And the same thing's true for jury duty scams. If I can just say that the clerk of courts puts a warning about jury duty scams on their site, but you can also go in and check and see if you've been called for jury duty right on that site. So if you can get to the source, and all of our addresses now, if you go to cuyahogacounty.gov, you can use that to navigate to any of the county boards or departments.
And I think, if people were, wondering why we're so invested in this, as we've said, we've talked about a couple scams now, and they're all kind of adjacent to county agencies. They tie in with the county sheriff's department, they tie in with the board of elections, they tie in with, even our health and human services, the services and the resources that are available to residents. Sometimes that can be a real tough place to have a scam happen. So we've got another question. This is from Instagram. Considering the widespread scam of EBT customers having their money spent from cards that they have in their possession, just wondering what the investigations are doing to try to protect Cuyahoga County residents from this kind of scam.
So EBT scams, those benefit cards that the state gives to folks who are eligible for different kinds of
Like
benefits.
SNAP.
SNAP.
Mhm.
They're more likely known as there have been a lot of times where apparently through skimmers, people are scammers are getting the pins and the card numbers and then just scraping money off. So there are a couple things. First of all, HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, right? And then the State Department of Health and Human Services, they have to be the lead investigators for those, but I believe that they are working with other federal agencies as well. So it's not so much it wouldn't be Cuyahoga County Department of Consumer Affairs or the county Department of Health and Human Services that's doing that investigation. But one thing, there are a couple steps that you can take to protect yourself. One, change your PIN often. If I don't know if those cards are equipped with the tap and pay. I don't believe any of the cards have
No.
chips, which makes them more vulnerable, right? But the minute you use your card, get on, change the PIN, because that would make it more difficult for people who are skimming the numbers. If you use your card to try to, don't use maybe the unattended registers at a
Mhm.
place. Maybe go to see the one where there are people, because as long as there are people working there, it takes just seconds for us, someone who's a skimmer. I was going to say scammer. That sounds insane. So, but who's running a skimming operation to just, put the equipment on those machines, and they're really hard to detect. But sometimes you can, if anything seems loose, like the place where you're going to put your card, you might not want to put your card in that particular machine. But it's very difficult for you to protect yourselves. But changing your PIN often would be a good step, and hopefully we're going to get chip protected cards, and I think people will be in a lot better position going forward.
And you said it does help to try to use a cashier checkout?
Only because we've heard some reports that skimmers have been found at certain stores that had self-checkouts. And so it's just like, will that be 100%? Probably not, but it may put you in a less vulnerable position.
Okay, let's talk about another scam that's, we hear about in the news a lot, and that's a grandparent scam. I know this happened to a neighbor of mine a couple years ago, where I got this frantic call, and it was just heartbreaking to hear about it after the fact, because she got a heartbreaking call from somebody claiming that it was one of her grandchildren, that she had been falsely accused of something and she needed money for bail. Um, you know, there's really bad actors involved here, but they're good actors in that they're very skilled at making this sound very urgent and very upsetting. And so she did, send money. Is this something that is still coming up and pretty common?
It is, and for a while, it had sort of died down, and, we always watch scam trends, but it's back up again. It's just come roaring back, and,
And it's like spring break season, it
if
does
you're
seem like it might be kind of a seasonal.
yeah, because and you're absolutely right because, if kids are more likely to be traveling, sometimes that's when you'll see, that's when you'll, uh these calls will go out or
Mhm.
over summer, and I we've had several where people were contacted about a grandchild, and it was like, uh, their grandchild was actually some other place in some other city, and the scammer was saying, "Oh, I was in driving around in Denver and I got in this car accident." This is always the story. Well, mostly the story. I was
Mhm.
driving, I was got in a car accident. I had a car with a pregnant woman and she's injured and not been arrested and I need bail. Don't tell mom and dad because again, we got to keep a secret if it's a scam, right?
Right.
But people also get these about their grown children. We've had people contacted about grown children who were professionals who said, I need to get out of jail and we need to keep this very quiet. But those are another scam where people, when your grandchild contacts you and they ask you, like, I need help, you're there, right? I mean, like, that's where their heads are going to
Mhm.
helping a grandchild that they love. And when they say, don't tell mom or dad, grandparents want to, respect that and help this grandchild. And they're so busy thinking about the, you know, their grandchild's life and oh my gosh, they've been in an accident, that again, they're in that panic mode and they're not really thinking clearly. So, um, what what we like to tell folks is just like there again, no secrets. If you can text your grandchildren, get all their text numbers and text them. And then in the morning, you may get these scam calls more in the morning. Kids are asleep or in class, right? If they're at college, they're asleep or in class. You may not be able to reach them. But no matter what someone says, like keep it a secret, call their parents because parents will be able to tell you, like, I know right where they are. They may have phone trackers. They may just, I know he's at school because I just texted him last night. It'll be okay. But you need to like again take a step back, kind of take a deep breath and figure out how can I verify. You can always call a police department too. They'll tell you, any police department will tell you this is a scam. And the amounts they ask for are not small. They're like $6,000, $10,000. So these aren't small scams. So you wouldn't I don't think you'd have a real bail amount is that high, but, most of us have no idea. So
Right.
right? But just again, just verify, 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 and if you're able to text your grandkids, I would, put their text in your phone so that you can instantly contact them wherever they are.
Or if you are a kid with a grandparent and you wanna make sure that, get make sure you have your contacts shared.
Yes.
So that's helpful. I think we do have a little bit of a misconception, though. I think because this one's been so publicized, um, because people are losing large amounts of money
Mhm.
too. I think that's part of the reason that it's publicized as well. But it seems like scammers mostly target older adults, but that's not necessarily the case, and especially not the way that things are trending lately.
Right. So scams happen to people of all ages. And in fact, younger people more often report losing money to scams than older people do. It's just younger people don't have that much money. And so they don't lose the same amounts that, say, an older person would who has lots of, a lifetime of assets and savings that they can dip
Retirement, right?
into. That's right. And so but it's not true that older people lose money to scams more often than younger people. We're seeing the opposite. And we're seeing it's just different scams target different age groups. So, like, no young person's going to get a grandparent scam, right? It's going to be older folks who get those. But younger people are going to get arrest scams. They're going to get jury duty scams. They're going to get job scams that are aimed at them. Pay us to get this job. Like, here's a great job for you. We want to hire you. Just send us some money so that we can do something, or we'll give you a check, which is counterfeit, and you deposit it in your account, and then you pay these organizations for us as part of your job. Those are scams that younger people are more likely to lose money to.
Okay. And with younger people, what about a romance scam? There's been a lot of talk about romance scams, and those have sort of evolved over the last few years as well.
Yeah, so romance scams are online scams. They're, they begin online. Someone seeks you out, not necessarily on a dating site either. Like you could meet a romance scammer on a dating site, but you're more likely to meet them nowadays just on Facebook or Instagram or some kind of social media where you're interacting with lots of people, and those become romance scammers used to say, you know, we're going to live happily ever after. And now but oops, I've had this terrible accident. I'm overseas. I can't access my money. Could you send me funds? And then it kind of goes from there. And they're sort of serially
Mhm.
getting funds from people.
The one I remember hearing a lot about was that oh, we won't be able to text anymore. My phone's broken. Unless you want to send me some money to get a new phone.
Well, yeah, a lot of times we have like some disaster at the orphanage, or my grown child is in peril in some other place and I can't get to my bank machine because I'm, in some remote place like an oil rig or Africa or something like that. Now, romance scams these days, I would say are it's kind of turning into these flirty friendships almost. Like some real romance scams, they continue to go on, but we're starting to see these ones where they're like flirtatious friendships, and in both romance scams where you believe you have a future with this person, and these flirty friendships where you're thinking that you're going to have you just have a friend where there's some
Connection.
possibility
It's like a
connection with
really true connection, right?
those scammers. You know, they're these new kinds of scammers, they're suggesting investments. They're like, I'm really wealthy, and you know, this stock has done so well for me. You could get rich too. And especially if you're feeling a lot of financial worries or whatever, that might appeal to you because investing is a way that many people make money. We hear about Warren Buffett and all sorts of other people who invested their way to wealth.
Mhm.
But what the scammer is going to do is connect you to someone who's a fake broker. It's not going to be a real stock, and you're just going to be sending money away. So I would say before you move your money out of a bank account in any way, shape, or form, you want to really check out, what it is that someone's saying. You're relying in these scams on a complete stranger that you have never met to talk to tell you what you should be doing with large sums of money, right? But these romance scammers, again, as you say, they're professionals and they're really good at creating this feeling of a bubble between two people. They're really in this relationship that feels very connected and very in sync. And it's very hard for people to walk back from that. We just heard the other day from a romance scam victim who, very lost a lot of money to a romance scam, and has decided not to send money, but still wants to keep the relationship because they feel such a kinship with the person, even though it's a scammer. And that's often typical for
Mhm.
romance scam victims. That sort of it takes a lot of work to pull pull them back.
Yeah, because, okay, if I don't send them money, but the relationship probably won't continue if they decide not to do that because the feelings aren't uh, mutual.
Right.
There's an end game in sight for the other person.
That's right.
I'm talking to Cuyahoga County Director of Consumer Affairs, Cheryl Harris, who is does a lot of work with consumer affairs and consumer protection in Cuyahoga County, and part of that is Scam Squad. Scam Squad is our topic. If you have a question, if you are concerned that you've been scammed, concerned somebody in your life might be scammed, um, please drop us a question in one of the social media platforms. We are live right now and taking your questions. You can also email a question to communications@cuyahogacounty.us. And again, as part of Scam Squad's work, it's really about helping people be more knowledgeable about how scammers work and scams that are out there. So again, what can people do to protect themselves and to protect other people just in going about, the business of their daily lives?
I think first of all, just do not answer calls from numbers that you do not know. Let them go to voicemail, because having a conversation with a scammer is, it can draw you in more. So just let them go to voicemail. Second, if you get a vaguely weird call from someone who's claiming to be, a deputy or something, just hang up the phone and call, the police themselves, or call Scam Squad.
Some kind of official.
That's right. And sometimes parents will get those calls, like someone like, so let's just say you have a son named Sam. And so someone might call you and say, I'm looking for Sam. I'm a deputy and he just needs to call me. And so, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what has that kid done? And so you pass on the phone number. But now when your kid gets that number, which is actually a scammer's number, they're going to feel like it's been vetted. You gave them the number, not a scammer directly, but their own mother gave them the number. And
Right.
so just don't pass along those messages. Those are things that, uh, you know, you don't need to pass along numbers with vague information on them to kids, because that's one way that people get scammed. Then another thing is just, I would say, really be protective of your money. You worked hard for it. It's in your bank account. Your money in the bank is FDIC insured. It's protected while it's there. And what scammers want, what they ultimately want, and this is what we all, I think, need to recognize. What scammers ultimately want is your money, or something they can monetize, like your passwords and your logins and your social security number. So you just really need to think about, anytime someone makes a request, that you withdraw money from your bank and you convert it into any other kind of currency, whether that's gift cards, Bitcoin, giving it to a scammer, changing it into gold, and then giving it to like a courier. Then that's your signal to stop. Just try to think, how much money am I willing to give to a criminal organization? And for most of us, it's $0. So just if someone makes that request that you do something urgently, do a big money, transfer, and act now and tell no one. Those are scams. And then the other thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is we have these Scam Squad alerts. And sometimes it's hard because scams change so quick. It's really hard to remember like all the scams or how they happen. And so our hope with Scam Squad alerts, which are going out through the Ready Notify system, which is the county's emergency management system, is that if we give you, like, once a month, we'll give you information about scams or how scams work, that it will be easier for you to remember that information at the time that you most need it, which is when you're getting a scam call or scam text or scam email. And so to do that, you go to readynotify.us, or you can call our office. And I'm just going to give you the main number for this because it's easier for us to get you in the system this way. It's 216-443-7035. And we will get you signed up for those alerts. And like I said before, and hopefully you can share them with friends and family too. And that creates a network where you can all share information. If you're not certain about something, you at least have someone to bounce something off of.
Right. And just kind of tied in with that, we got a question on Instagram from somebody who may have just joined us, that they want to try to help their grandparents spot scams more easily. I hope there hasn't been a situation already where, you want to do that, but just trying to warn them, so that they can understand that, they need to pull themselves out of anybody who's trying to make something seem like an urgent situation.
That's right. And you know what? It's great that, this person can say to their grandparents, I'm here for you. You can reach out to me. If something sounds weird or you're being asked to make a decision right away and tell no one, let's make a pact that we can always talk about these things and I'll help get you to something. You know what I mean? It's just really helpful for someone to have someone in their lives that they can reach out to just to say, "Hey, is this real?" And a lot of the scam reports we get from family members who have been contacted by someone else in their
Mhm.
family who are telling us, "This is what happened." So, that sense of community is good, but honestly and truly, if you can sign them up for Scam Squad alerts on Ready Notify, they'll get sort of a steady, just steady reminders. And honestly, those reminders were designed because we read studies that consumer education works, but it kind of wears off over time. So the whole idea was, let's just give you occasional reminders so that you can remember that information when you need to.
And make sure that you have your contacts shared, or there's, or it's written by the phone, and maybe even put the scam squad number there just to be sure.
We have, I wish I had one with me, but they're yellow cards. They're called hang up if cards. And every time they're published, we put 3 tips that are the most current scams that we have, like how to, it just says hang up if, someone, tells you they need, someone claims they're a relative who needs bail money. Hang up if someone wants remote access to your computer. Hang up if, you know, so we have those 3 little tips. We have our Scam Squad number on the back, on the front, and then on the back, there's our office number and the numbers of like 5 or 6 partners. So you can always find someone to call. And if they contact us, Cuyahoga County Consumer Affairs, um, uh, we'll send them a card. We'll send them a card to keep by the phone
Mhm.
or on the fridge. And we're happy to give you as many of those as you need to share with your friends.
Okay, so it's cuyahogacounty.gov/scam squad for the Scam Squad website. And again, the number is 216-443-SCAM,
Yes.
7226 for Scam Squad. And again, the thing to think about, if you have been scammed or someone who's been scammed, and you're feeling embarrassed about it, or you just don't, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about those things. But by calling and by reporting to Scam Squad, you're helping who knows how many other people, because that information then gets to investigators who can work on the issue.
That's right. And we have 2 investigators on staff. We act as a clearinghouse for Scam Squad. And if we can, we'll intake your scam report in one phone call. And so we'll get it to the partner that needs to have it. In some cases, we may need you to make an additional call, but you'll know exactly who you need to call. And we'll give you resources to help you avoid further damage from the scam, right? To limit the scam damage. And we are very understanding with folks who lose money to scams. You're not alone. No matter, even if you feel like you're alone in that moment, I promise you, you are not. And whatever you just experienced, many hundreds and thousands of people have experienced that same scam before. And what we'd like to hear from you is how it worked in your case, because that helps us update our alerts to the public. And it is very helpful to everyone. And I think most folks who contact us about a scam feel really glad that they did. I mean, they just feel better going
They're
forward.
taking some of that agency back.
That's right. They're doing a proactive thing. We're giving them steps to take if they need to kind of limit the damage. And they have a plan going forward.
Well, I feel like we covered a lot of scams, but are there any that we missed? Any in like the top 5 or the most trending?
The one thing I wanna mention, which I mentioned kind of in passing, but I really do wanna kinda hit on this just a little bit,
Great.
is there are certain kinds of the imposter government and imposter business scams. Often they're kind of hybrids. They pretend to pass you off to a federal agent, or to a federal agent to a business, to your bank.
Mhm.
Um, but if someone ever asks you, like, they'll give you a whole bunch of, like, sometimes they'll say, we took money out of your account and it was wrong. We're trying to give you a refund. And then they'll give you all sorts of instructions for something to do on your computer and it doesn't work for you and you try and try and try. And the reason it's not working for you is because it's designed to fail.
They want to
Because
get in there.
then the scammers is going to say, you know what? It's easier if I show you.
Mhm.
I'm going to send you something and you just click on that and you'll give me, it'll let me get in your computer and show you. That is never a thing you want to do. You do not want to allow a stranger into your computer, because what it allows them to do is either manipulate money that's actually in your accounts that you're logged into, or to manipulate your screen so you see something that's not reality and then you're acting based on that. So we don't ever want to give remote access to anyone to our computers. Our computers are very, very, very private spaces.
Okay. Well, we've been talking to Cuyahoga County Director of Consumer Affairs, Cheryl Harris, about Scam Squad, about what you can do if you've been scammed, or more importantly, how to avoid being scammed. And just want to know what you think the most important takeaways are for residents who've been following this today.
Just contact us if you need more information. You can call 216-443-7226. We have information that we can send to residents. We can help you through both, if you're experiencing a scam, or if you're worried that someone that you care about is, and we can give you tips and help, hopefully early enough that we can avoid dollar losses.
And this is something too that you can take on the road. So if you are involved in a club or an organization and you think this is valuable information for your group, how should they contact you?
Well, probably you can call us through the scam line, but
Yeah.
it's really and truly, it'll work out better if you just call us at our main number, which is a little different. It's 216-443-7035. We have, we actually have a game called Scammo, which is like scam education bingo, and it's a blast to play. People really like it, and we like playing it. It teaches you all about various kinds of scams, and it's great for like clubs and organizations. We play that game a
schools.
lot. We we have played it at schools.
Yeah,
and
kids love it.
Young people like it too. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a great game. It's a great way to learn about scams, and you win prizes. Come on, what's not there? There, of course, just candy bars, but nonetheless, you can have a chance to win a prize. You can learn a lot about scams, and that's a great thing if you're trying to share information with a large group of people. We also will do presentations to groups if you want something, a little more formal. We're happy to do that as well. So just reach out to us. We have a whole outreach thing that you can check out through. If you go to the Scam Squad site, you'll see it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Ask Cuyahoga is produced by your Cuyahoga County Communications Department. If you have any comments or a topic that you'd like us to take on in a future live event, email communications@cuyahogacounty.us. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.